Nina rarely did jeans, but she wriggled into a tight pencil skirt, slipped on her day heels, and by the time she tripped down the stairs into the shop, she was only 15 minutes late, complained Posy, the owner of Happy Ever After, in an unnecessarily loud voice. You live above the shop. You have a 10-second commute, so how come you're still 15 minutes late? Obviously, my body clock runs 15 minutes later than yours, Nina pointed out. I can't be responsible for my biological needs. Talking of which, coffee. It was a plaintive moan. Be a love and nip to the tea rooms and bring me back the largest mug of coffee possible. I am a love, but I'm also your boss, Posy said sternly. But she never could pull off stern. Her softly pretty face just wasn't made that way. Just the one, sugar. Better make it 2, Nina decided. As it is, I wouldn't expect too much from me until after lunch, Pose. Posy shook her head in despair as she headed through the arch that led to a series of ante-rooms, which in turn led to the tea rooms from where the heavenly scent of freshly brewed coffee and cakes, just out of the oven, wafted through the shop. And what a lovely shop it was. Happy Ever After was the only bookshop in Britain, maybe even the world, dedicated to books about love. Your one-stop shop for all your romantic fiction needs, as it said on the bookmarks Nina tucked into every book she sold. Even before she lived above the premises, Happy Ever After had always felt like home to Nina, and from where she was perched on a stool behind the counter, she surveyed her domain. In the centre of the main room were 3 sofas in varying stages of sagging decay, arranged around a table heaped with books. There was a wall of new releases and bestsellers, the top shelves accessed by a rolling ladder, while the opposite wall had yet more books and a series of vintage display cabinets full of romantic fiction-related gifts, from mugs to cards, T-shirts and jewellery. Then, on either side were the arches, which led to a series of smaller rooms, all stuffed from floor to ceiling with yet more books. It was the kind of shop where you could spend an hour browsing contentedly, although at that moment Nina was far from content. That coffee you made me this morning, not that I'm complaining, was as weak as a kitten's fart, she shouted to Verity, who was at her desk in the office at the back of the shop, behind the counter. The door was only slightly ajar, hence the need to shout. Is Tom in today? It sounds quite a lot like complaining to me, and no Tom today. He phoned to say he was having a footnotes emergency with his dissertation, Verity called out, and Posy has a meeting with her accountant this morning, so you'll have to hold the fort single-handed. Yeah, well, if it gets really busy, you'll just have to help in the shop. Nina was going to be very firm about that. Verity couldn't skulk in the office and leave Nina to completely fend for herself if they were suddenly overrun by customers. Though, she squinted out of the shop's bow-fronted windows. It was a damp, grey Tuesday morning, and so Nina hoped they'd be quiet until after she got her second wind. From experience, when she was this fragile, her second wind didn't usually make an appearance until she consumed at least 3 baked goods and had a kill or cure fry-up for lunch. And there was Posy, back with Nina's coffee and a muffin the size of her head. Is that muffin for me? Nina asked hopefully. It was, and it was studded with blueberries, which any fool knew were a superfood. So it was a very healthy muffin, Nina thought to herself, as she stuffed huge chunks of it in her mouth and started to tackle the teetering pile of books waiting to be shelved that were on the counter in front of her. Don't get muffin fingers on them, Posy warned, but Nina had been eating cake and handling new books in a professional capacity for 3 years, so she ignored her employer. It wasn't as if she were turning the pages. All she was doing was reading the back cover blurbs so that when a customer came in and said that she was looking for a paranormal romance featuring a time-travelling, shape-shifting Duke werewolf and that it probably had a blue cover, then Nina would be able to point her in the right direction. Once digested, the blurbs, rather than the muffin, Nina separated them into different piles for easier shelving. Historical, Regency, which had its own section, erotic, YA. What exactly are you doing? Asked a voice to Nina's left. It was a male voice. They didn't get many.